Hello, everybody. This is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover, and I'm back with another video. Um, Today, I want to talk about a movie that I think is kind of interesting because it is a horror film from 1975, and to this day, I still talk to a lot of people about it, and still have arguments and things like that, and discussions and everything else about this film. And the biggest thing that we keep talking about is this movie sexist or is this movie feminist? And you might have already, well, you're already going to know because it's in the title, duh. But the movie we're talking about is 1975's The Stepford Wives. The film is directed by Bryan Forbes. It stars Catherine Ross, Paula Prentiss, Peter Masterson, Patrick O'Neill, Mary Stuart Masterson. Um, Kenneth McMillan makes a cameo appearance and stuff. Yeah, I mean, this movie here, I find it very intriguing. I really do. The screenplay was by William Goldman, and it was based on the book by Ira Levin. And I remember reading the book years ago, and the book was really small. I mean, I'm not kidding. I read it in a matter of hours. That's how small the book was. But it was a good read. It was an interesting read. Got you through it. But then I remember, I don't know if too many people remember this or not. I definitely do. I remember like back in the late 80s and early 90s and stuff like that. One thing that used to be big was that TBS, not TNT so much, but like TBS in the mornings they would play like older movies. They would show like older movies like double feature, something like that. And they would play like a lot of old TV movies and movies from the 70s and things like that. And there were days I really wanted to just stay home a lot. I wasn't really big on school anyway, but I wanted to stay home a lot mainly because I just wanted to, just see what kind of good movies they had on there. And I was watching some really good stuff. That was when I first discovered the movie Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. That movie's brilliant. I'm going to tell you right now. If you haven't seen that movie, I think you even watch it for free on YouTube. I mean, hell, don't wait. Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, get on there, watch it. You haven't seen it, it's brilliant. It's a masterpiece. That's when I saw like Steven Spielberg's movie Duel. I watched movies like Marathon Man and other Brian De Palma's movie Sisters and stuff. That's how I discover a lot of movies, and that's how I discovered this one right here. And I thought that the premise was kind of interesting, and even though they remade this, oh shit, what was in the early mid 2000s with Nicole Kidman. That movie's garbage. Don't even bother with it. That one is so bad because it misses the point entirely. I'll get to that in a minute, but I remember watching this movie, and I remember that the atmosphere in this movie is so incredible. It's so foreboding. You get the sense that it. Once they get into the town of Stepford, you get this sense of like just dread, and it's just coming and coming and coming and all this other kind of stuff. The story starts off. You got Catherine Ross, and she's playing a character named Joanna Eberhardt, and her and her husband Walter. They're moving to this town of Stepford with their two daughters, and we come to find out that actually the husband Walter, he made the decision for them to move and all this other kind of stuff without even consulting her. And like I said, this movie is made in the mid '70s, and this was right around the time of women's rights, women's live, and all this other kind of stuff really coming out and being a big topic and issue and things like, not issue but topic. But so they moved to this town and everything. You realize, like, he wanted to move there. She didn't want to move there so much. They lived in New York City, and Stefford's in Connecticut. They lived in New York City. She wanted to be in New York City because she's a photographer and she's kind of a big city girl, and that's what she knows and that's what she's used to. And moving to a small town, she's not really like keen on the idea. And so they move to the small town and stuff like that, and they start meeting their neighbors and stuff like that, and like Joanna, she meets her friend Bobby, played by Paula Prentiss, who Paula Prentiss gives an amazing performance in this movie. I mean, she is on, I mean, she is just so good in this entire movie. And then they meet another friend. What was her name? The character's name. I'm sorry, I can't remember the character's name, but she's played by Tina Louise. Everybody's always going to remember Tina Louise. She was Ginger on Gilligan's Island and stuff. So they go to this, they move to this town and stuff like that. And she's like, Joanna, she's not having a great time, adapting to this and stuff like that. And, the husband, he's there and he's kind of like talking with the other guys in the neighborhood. And like at one point, one of the neighbors' wives comes over and she's all like just really decked out in this, beautiful, almost like Victorian kind of dress and stuff like that. And she's like very soft spoken, no emotion and all this other kind of stuff. And she comes up, she gives him a casserole and stuff, and at one point he's going out to walk his dog and stuff like that, and the neighbor guy comes out to put a letter in the mailbox like she cooks as good as she looks, Ted. And the guy's just and stuff, and then like it starts to get creepy from there, and um, then like we kind of find out that Joanna, while she is a good person, okay, and I'm gonna get to this, okay, just don't beat me to it. While we realize that Joanna is a good person, here's the thing: she's not really like a 1950s housewife. She's not June Cleaver or any of that kind of stuff. Like she forgets to go to the grocery store, and she doesn't always get the house cleaned up and stuff like that. I mean, she's a human being. It's like she's just a person. So that's not a bad thing. But so they're having this discussion, and he is talking about like he met some of the other guys in the town, and they want to know if he wants to become part of this men association, and it's like he's like, yeah, there's one thing I don't like, that right now it's only women, or it's only men, no women allowed. And then that's when Joanna really gets pissed, and she lets him have it, and rightfully so, because um, she's like, why is it you make it out like everything we do as a couple and we do as a team and all this, but everything is always about what you want. You're the one that wanted this house. Before you asked me what I thought of the house. I found out you already bought it. You asked me what I thought of this town. You already moved us here. You asked me about this. You already do this and that and everything else. Now you're asking me about this men's association, and it's clear you've already joined this club and everything else. And she's like, so why the hell you even bother to ask me for anything at all? And stuff like that. And so there's a little bit of friction there and stuff like that. And so as the story goes along, and um, they start to notice, like Joanna starts to notice, like the women in the town are a little weird. They kind of, they're all like really into just like all they want to do is clean their house and cook and have sex with their husbands and wash dishes and things like that, and all this other kind of stuff. And they're all kind of dressed in this kind of like old fashioned kind of like, they're dressed in these fancy like sundresses and wearing sun hats and all this other kind of stuff. They're all kind of, they don't dress like, I mean, they're not wearing like modern day, well, at the time it was 1970s, but modern day clothes for that period of time. And then, so, like they're starting to realize that there's still weird things going on with this. And, you know, one by one, like all their friends, like these women that they know, women who are like Tina Louise's character is like, she's, acting, at first when they meet her, she likes to play tennis and all this other kind of stuff. And she's got a maid. The maid, by the way, is played by Dee Wallace, a little cameo for Dee Wallace in the movie. And, so, and she's just kind of like this rich girl who married this guy. He's got a lot of money and all this other kind of stuff. And, but then we notice all of a sudden she's weird. Now she's dressed up like the other wives. And now all she wants to do is just, all she wants to do is just, clean her house and cook and do dishes and take care of the kids and everything else. She has no other interest. As a matter of fact, they go to see her. The tennis court that her husband built for her is now being torn up so they could put a swimming pool in there, which is what he wanted and stuff like that. And then at one point, he brings Walter brings these guys to Joanna's house, and they're all sitting there talking, and it's kind of weird because they're all going around and they're like looking all over the house and they're like studying everything, and they're studying the bedroom, they're studying, this and that and all this other kind of stuff. And then, you got the guy named Dale Colba, played by Patrick O'Neill, who's, basically we come to find out he's the villain and stuff like that. He's watching Joanna and he's all like, yeah, I like to watch women do domestic chores and stuff. And you could tell right away Joanna's getting a bad vibe from him and all that stuff, and can't blame her. And so they're sitting there talking and stuff. Like one guy's just sitting there, he's just drawing her, he's just drawing pictures of her and stuff like that. Then you come to realize what he's doing. He's drawing her so that they can do what they're going to do, and they're going to replace her and stuff. And so, like I said, as the movie progresses, the tension mounts because, like at first it's Tina Louise's character, and then um, they don't think much about it, and then and it's starting to get creepy. And Paula Prentiss, she's like, I think it might be something in the water. Let's get the water tested. So they go get the water tested, and they find out, no, it's not the water. So what else could it be? And all this kind of stuff. And at one point they decide, let's get the hell out of Stepford. Let's talk to our husbands. Let's get the hell out of, let's beat out of town, and all this other kind of stuff. And they go to the husbands. The husbands are like, yeah, okay, yeah, sure, let's move. And yes, place wasn't really what we thought it was going to be either, and stuff like that. And so yeah, let's move. Start looking around. We'll see what we can do and all this kind of stuff. So they're looking at houses, and at one point, Bobby, she mentions that, oh, my husband's going to take me away on a weekend, and we're going to have this romantic getaway and stuff. And then kind of realize that's kind of like when Bobby disappears. The real Bobby disappears, and then when she goes to so like Joanna, her main thing is she's a photographer. That's her main hobby, and she's filled with inspiration. She's watching, her kids and Bobby kids playing and stuff like that, and she's taking pictures of them and all this other kind of stuff. And so then she goes and she sees that now Bobby is now like the other housewives. She's dressed up in this old kind of dress style and everything else, and she's and Paula Prentiss gives an amazing performance in this movie. It's like in the beginning she's funny, she's spry, she's spunky, she makes great like one liners, she tells some good jokes and all this other kind of stuff. But then when she's changed, she takes on a very, just, I mean, her whole demeanor is very, very scary, very creepy. And just like the way she's, I was gonna just make you coffee. It's creepy, it's scary the way to do it. And then basically you kind of realize like that what's ending up happening is that the men are not happy with their wives, and what they're doing is they're basically making like robot versions of their wives, and then they turn around, they murder their wives to do away with them, and this robot basically takes the wife's place. Okay, now here's the thing. Okay, like I said, this book came out around the time of women's liberation and things like that, so, but see, here's the thing, it's like, now this, you could go one of two ways on this story. Either it could be extremely sexist, depending on how you look at it. It could be extremely sexist, or it could be extremely feminist. Okay, and it could be sexist because, yeah, what the storyline is about, men who want to kill their wives and build these robot versions of them, and these robot versions, have no flaws as what their human wives have, and stuff like that, and these, robot wives, they just like to cook and clean and make love and everything else, and all, take care of the kids nonstop and all this other kind of stuff, and be the perfect housewife. So it's like, it could be sexist in that sense, or, it could be extremely feminist in the sense that, the women, see, here's the thing. My point of view on this movie is that this movie is extremely feminist. I don't particularly think of it as sexist, because what you got to understand though is like this movie, despite what the storyline is about, this movie is a woman's film. It is told from a female perspective. The main character, the main characters are females, Bobby and Joanna. They're the main characters. We're seeing this story unfold through their eyes. We're seeing the movie, we're going with them on this journey. And and then you realize that it's like, Bobby, like, these women, they're not bad women. I mean, Joanna is a good woman. She's a good woman. Okay, so she's not the perfect wife, but she's a human being, but she's a good okay, she may have a couple of flaws, but she's not somebody that should be done away with or anything like that. You follow Joanna and you care about her, and Catherine Ross gives just just a magnificent performance in this movie. The scene where she's talking to a therapist and she's talking about, she's so scared, and Catherine Ross plays that so well because the therapist is all like, yeah, it's like right now I can't do anything for you, but if you come back in like so much time, we can talk some more. And just the ways Catherine Ross, I mean, the tears coming out of her eyes and the way she plays, she's like, no, you don't understand. I don't have any time left. When you come back, there's going to be somebody else who's going to cook and clean and look perfect and act perfect and take care of the kids. But it's not somebody who's going to take pictures, and it's not going to be me. It's not going to be me. Do you understand? And all this other kind of stuff. Her performance is just brilliant. I mean, I can't say enough good things about her performance in this movie. And, like I said before, Paula Prentiss knocks it out of the ballpark with this movie. She really does. Tina Louise is fantastic in this movie. But the thing is, though, too, another reason why I say I think this is a feminist film is because if you watch the movie, it is hinted at in the book as well, but if you watch this movie, you realize the men really are the bad guys in this story because, okay, you got like Catherine Ross, back in, Catherine Ross, she's stunning, she's beautiful, she's gorgeous, and everything else. She's kind of, you have no problems being married to Catherine Ross. Obviously, Sam Elliott doesn't, but you would have no problems, if your wife was Catherine Ross, or Paula Prentiss or Tina Louise or, so on. Nanette Newman, or was it Nanette? Yeah, I think it's Nanette Newman. Anyway, you wouldn't have any problems with these women being your wife. But when you see these guys, the fact of the matter is, these guys are guys that really should not have gotten these women in the first place. They should be happy that these women would even want to have anything to do with them. These are the kind of guys who, like, they look creepy. They act weird. They kind of look like the kind of guys who, like, like, ooh, they come off as just so kind of scuzzy. You know what I mean? And it's like they come off as like the kind of guys who would, like, like they have like a regular job and stuff, but they almost be like the BTK killer, for crying out loud. Like, yeah, they have a regular job and stuff like that, but it's like they come home and they'd be like looking like bondage porn or some shit on there, or they look up kitty porn or something. They come off like that. And I mean, the fact that they got these hot wives that actually want to fuck them, I mean, it's all like, it's so, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like, that's what makes it interesting, is the fact that these guys are nothing special. And the women even say it in the movie too. Because like at one point, like Bobby and Joanna accidentally walk into, well, they don't accidentally, they walk into one of their neighbors' houses, and all they hear from upstairs is the sound of lovemaking. And the wife is just going on, and she's like, oh my God, you're the best, Frank. You're the hottest, Frank. You're the king, Frank, and all this other kind of stuff, And then when they see this guy is, oh my God, this is the king, and all this other kind of stuff. I mean, definitely not, definitely not a hunk. Okay. We're definitely not talking Channing Tatum here. Okay. But no, I always thought of this movie as a feminist film. I never thought of it as sexist. I mean, I could see why people would think that, given what the story is about. But no, I always saw this as a pro-female movie. And the thing that I don't like about the remake is, like, on the remake, it's clear that they didn't get it. They didn't get this movie. And they thought that to sit there and, first of all, what makes this movie great is, like, the concept is kind of silly. The idea of, killing somebody, making a robot version of it to replace them. It's kind of silly. It's sci-fi. It's kind of ridiculous. But the way the movie is, the way the execution is done, and the way the movie is handled, is so good that, you do buy into it. They don't get too into the minutia of how it's done or anything like that. but I mean, just they show you just enough to get you to kind of go along with the premise, no matter how silly it is. But they do kind of get you to go along with it. But like in the remake, it's so ridiculous and it's so stupid and so silly, and they try to get too much into the minutia of how it's done. And the remake is more meant to be a flat out comedy anyway, where this is more suspense and terror and stuff like that, and kind of more of a political. Well, I don't know political, but this movie is more of a statement. Um, but yeah, I would totally say, this movie needs a Blu-ray release. I wish to God somebody would get off their asses and get this on Blu-ray. I really want to see this get one. But yeah, like the Nicole Kidman movie, you can skip that because it's just horrible. Don't even bother with it. It's so stupid and so silly and everything else. But anyway, though, yeah, this movie is really good. Like I said, the atmosphere, the tone of the film, everything else, it's done so well enough that you do buy into it, regardless of how stupid the whole premise of the movie is, or how silly it is. Well, it's like nowadays, it's like the other day I saw a documentary about they're getting closer and closer to making these sex robots, and apparently there are men waiting for these sex robots and stuff like that. So I don't know. Maybe nowadays this wouldn't be such a ridiculous, silly sci-fi concept. So who knows? Maybe in a few years, it's like, sex robots might be a thing. But until then, it's like, but honestly, though, I never thought of this as a sexist film. I always thought of it more as a feminist film. I always saw it as a pro-female film, not a pro-male film. Because, like I said, these guys, they should be lucky that these women even want them in the first place. I mean, no offense, to Peter Masterson, rest in peace, everything else. But I mean, like when you see him and you see Catherine Ross, you're kind of like, the guy ought to consider himself lucky he snagged such a hot woman, even if, but her biggest flaw, and it's not even a flaw, but it's like her biggest flaw is the fact that she just wants to take pictures. She has a hobby outside of being a mom and a wife, and well, not a hobby, but like a goal, an ambition. She wants to be a good photographer. She wants, at one point she's showing her stuff around a gallery, and she's like, I just want to take one good picture that somebody will, look and see, and they'll know my name, and that's it. I just want to be remembered, you know. And that's it, But because and so they're getting into an argument and stuff, and her and Walter, they're getting into an argument and stuff, and he's sitting there talking about, well, if you spend more time taking care of your family, less taking your goddamn pictures and stuff like that, and so I mean, you can tell it's like just the fact that she's not constantly at home, washing clothes, doing laundry, cooking dinner, cleaning the house, taking care of the kids, all that kind of stuff, waiting to fuck him the minute he walks in the door, and all this kind of stuff, ready with a martini in her hand and shit. The fact she's not doing that, that's her crime. That's what seals her death warrant. So I mean, it's like, to me, that's not cool. That's beyond bad. So I would, just, I guess it just depends on what people think of this. But for me personally, this is a very controversial film. It is even to this day. But I never thought of it as a sexist film. I always thought of it as a feminist film. It's a pro-female movie. The main characters are females. We're seeing the movie through their eyes. We're more concerned about them than we ever are with Walter or any of the other characters in this movie. So anyway, though, yeah, I do recommend this one. But you've heard me say it a dozen times already. Steer clear of the remake, the one with Nicole Kidman, avoid like the plague. Not good. Not good. I have it on DVD, and yeah, just steer clear of it. Anyway, that's going to wrap this up. I went on for too long, but we talked about the Bryan Forbes 1975 movie, The Stepford Wives, written by the book by Ira Levin, but the screenplay by the late William Goldman, who did great movie, wrote great screenplays like Misery and Princess Bride, Marathon Man, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, so on and so forth. So anyway, that's going to do it. I'm sorry I've gone on too long, but if anybody took the time to watch all this, thank you. I do appreciate you for doing it. I really do. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. This is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover. And we might have other horror movies that we can debate are sexist or feminist in the future. So, if you watch this, stay tuned. Have a good night. Bye-bye.